Amy Robach claims that she is delaying blood work out of fear of a recurrence of breast cancer. In the most recent episode of the podcast Amy and TJ, Robach said that she hasn't had blood work done since August 2022. Robach is hesitant to have blood work done following her 2013 diagnosis of stage 2 breast cancer. In Thursday's most recent episode of the Amy and TJ podcast, Robach, 51, said that her most recent blood testing was completed in August 2022. In a podcast interview with Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center oncologist Dr. Elizabeth Kamen, Robach disclosed that she neglected to get blood tests done in February 2023 because to the media attention surrounding her and partner TJ Holmes' relationship at the time. Yes, it was the last thing on my mind, but we were going through our hell, the former anchor of Good Morning America admitted. Robach had a live mammography on GMA, following which she was informed of her cancer diagnosis. Before undergoing her last round of treatment in April 2014, she underwent 8 rounds of chemotherapy and a double mastectomy. She went on to explain her reasoning for delaying the blood work. I think anyone who has survived this knows that when you go in for the blood work, it's very emotional because you're literally they're looking for tumor markers is what they're looking for. Therefore, you would assume that you would obtain a blood test that would indicate a tumor marker, which would mean that you would be facing then a terminal yet manageable, but eventually a terminal cancer if the disease were to return in the places you don't want it to, like breast cancer, bones, liver, lungs, and brain. Therefore, I believe that the concern is that if you adopt this perspective, I won't want to know. I prefer not to know, she continued. Anyway, there won't be any difference. Once you start thinking like way, you can use it as an excuse to avoid uncomfortable or frightening situations, such as having to visit the doctor or the NYU Cancer Center again, Robach said. The 46-year-old Holmes clarified, saying, I've certainly covered breast cancer. People with breast cancer are people I know. I've recently fallen in love with a breast cancer survivor, but I've always been concerned by and afraid of it, right? And all I'm hearing is that this woman I've been through all of this with isn't doing everything in her power to make sure we spend as much time together as possible, he went on to say. Does that make sense? Robach concurred with Holmes' assessment, acknowledging that it was selfish of her to put off doing the tests. What's fascinating, Robach said, is that I preach this, or have preached this to a great number of women who, I'm expressing that this is now the same mindset that many women have on skipping mammograms because of a desire to remain in the dark. They have no desire to locate the mass. They don't want to find out whether they have cancer since it's frightening and indicates that things would be challenging. And so, as foolish as that notion may be, ignorance is bliss. Even though it defies logic, I'm now feeling this human nature as a result of putting things off. If you put anything off for too long, you eventually realize how nice it feels to be able to avoid making a phone call. Not having to go for a blood test feels amazing. I feel like myself. I wish I could wish cancer into existence since I feel like I never had it, even though that isn't rational or smart, she said. During a podcast interview in January, Robach discussed her diagnosis. She said that she thought she was going to die when she was first diagnosed, and that she now has same anxiety every 6 months when she undergoes exams. Holmes remarked to Robach, "You're still wondering how much time you have left."